The chambers of the Galactic Council were abuzz for several days, as everyone knew what was coming, but no one truly knew what to expect. When they looked out, they could see a massive ship moving towards the Galactic Council. The Galactic Council itself was on the largest space station available, and it was almost dwarfed by the majesty of this ship. This lone ship moved, with dreadnoughts flanking it on the left, right, dorsal, and ventral, and yet they almost seemed like pebbles compared to it. It moved slowly and deliberately, the ugliest damn ship any species had ever seen, and simply floated up close to one of the bays, and then extended its umbilical to latch on to the side. The entire station shuddered when the umbilical clamped on, and then the entire station could feel the air pressure as it was filled with atmosphere. They worried what could possibly had built a ship designed to take on entire planets and fleets alone. Who or what could possibly do this? They knew what it was. They didn't know exactly who, though. They wouldn't know until the council began its start. As they all looked outside the dome that was completely transparent, they could see the edge of this ship. It was clear to everyone in the chamber that whoever was there to make a statement. A very clear statement. The council chambers settled down eventually, and they were called to order by the Chancellor. The Chancellor introduced everyone to a new species that had been talked about amongst all others, but had not actually introduced itself. They were allowed to bring 2 of their personnel in, and as they were introduced, they were stated as being the humans. As the doors opened, many people wondered for a moment as there was no movement on the side. Eventually, one of these creatures, seemingly having to crouch almost down onto its buttocks to make it through the door, wiggled through with some difficulty, and then stood up to full height. Its height almost pushing its head against the top of the council chamber itself, at least at the entrance. Then, as it stepped forward, another one came through, the first one being dressed in plain garments. Though wearing garments was not common, it was clear that this was meant to show that everyone that they were clean and respectful. The second one came through with all sorts of shiny ornaments on the front of its suit. Along with that, it had a simple piece of headgear that was tucked under its arm once it stood up. Each of them walked up to the front and got ready to introduce themselves. The man in the suit spoke first. "Hello, I am Mr. Vanscoy. I am representative of the human race. This here is Fleet Admiral Chartier. He is here to represent the military arm of the human race. And now that introductions are over, we'd like to get down to business." The Fleet Admiral stepped forward and laid out the events. "As you all know, approximately 14 of our years ago, one of your species showed up on our homeworld, declared war, and immediately came into our space. Granted, there's a slight difference in the way time moves in our space compared to yours, so we did not have the allotted time that you would suspect. Your standard of a galactic hour is approximately 51 minutes of our time. You gave us 34 minutes. This is well documented, and you should all be receiving a report as I speak. During this time, you entered our sector, going beyond our gas giants and working your way towards. As we are come to find out, you have been looking for our fleets. At the time, we did not have a fleet, not one designed for what you were planning on. Our satellites were neither designed to reach out and strike you, nor to scan your ships at the time. However, Due to this, you decided that the jewel of Earth itself was something you wished to take. Your hubris, your desire to take down our entire population and turn us into slaves, something that the human race has had to deal with over our own history for a very long time, and we take very much offense to. With that, Vanscoy reached out and touched the Fleet Admiral's arm, reminding him not to get any type of emotion into his speech. Clearing his throat, he continued, As you know, your fleet, your forces were completely and utterly destroyed, eliminated, beaten, and then fell down to our planets. We found out that you had decided to send an envoy to our planet demanding the return of those ships. We have checked your decrees, your laws, your way of thinking, and found that there is absolutely no precedence for this. We need to return nothing. They are spoils of war, just as any other conflict written in your own guidelines. We also know that you, once on the losing side, are to hold yourselves for 30 years, 30 of your years, which barely comes out to 20 of our own. Because we have no wish to destroy another one of your fleets and have its whatever was in those fleets damage our planet again, we have come for peace negotiations. He lanes it over to Mr. Vanscoy. Yes, thank you. As my wonderful friend, Fleet Admiral Chartier, has said, we have come for peace negotiations. The whole crowd is now rumbling, talking to themselves. As you know, we have not reached beyond our own crater world, as of what you know. Though we have found that bringing in a common enemy can very much aggravate our population. To that end, we would like to quell this by not only bringing peace, but also, once reparations are paid, we will simply retain ourselves in our own sector. Do not violate our territory, and we will not have any issues with you. Mr. Vanscoy looked around and let everyone rumble around that for a moment, as many of them were still amazed at how large this giant was and how eloquently it spoke, even though the bellowing voice was something that made those right up front have to cover their audio receptors, trying desperately to make sure that they do not go into a coma from the booming sound that was coming out. With this, the ambassador for the Clunk, the ones who actually invaded human space, jumped up. How dare you even consider this? We will not pay you. And plus, you must return our ships, or we will never have peace on your planet. Why should we possibly return a spoil of war? Because it is the right thing to do, and because we have told you to do so. Telling someone to do so does not make it law. We have checked over your documents, as he held up a datapad. We have seen what you have signed as a signatory of your laws and rules of war. We do not have to. However, being that we are not a signatory, we are asking for a special exception to this so that we do not engage ourselves in your galactic conflicts as we have no interest in them. Still, how dare you even consider defying what's ours? We can consider that because we kicked your ass. They all looked at each other, wondering if something had messed up in the translation. If you do not do as we command you to do, then we will simply invade you again, but this time we will bring 10, no 100 times as much forces. There is no way you can defeat that many, even with your large stature. There is no way in all of the hells there are that you could possibly fight against that much force. Plus, since you are not a signatory, there's other weapons we can bring to bear. With that, the entire crowd got very nervous, as they knew what he was implying. We don't recommend that, the Fleet Admiral said. Mr. Vanscoy held his hand out slightly, trying again to calm the Admiral down, but the Admiral was clearly not happy about the situation. If you do not listen to our decree in this council, you have gone in defiance of this council. You are not the council, Mr. Vanscoy screamed. You are simply one species, but we are the strongest voice. He looks around to all the council members. And you will see that none of us will ever bow down to you, never be your toys, never, ever will we ever be your servants. We know that you are a threat to every single one of us, and due to that, we will all come together to fight a menace such as yourself. Menace? Mr. Vanscoy asked. Yes, absolutely a menace. You bring that ship, you bring a dreadnought-class ship to this area of peace, the only area in the entire galaxy where no weapons are to be brought, and you brought a dreadnought, something designed to crack worlds, and yet you claim that you want to be peaceful with this show of force, a threat to everyone here, every species, every colony that is out there. Every single one of us knows how dangerous you are. We understand that you do not have the capability yet to reach beyond your crater world except for this one ship. And we also know that there is no way that you can stand up against all of us. You are a threat to everyone here. This time, swaying not only his claws but his tentacles on every single direction, trying to emphasize the fact that he is bringing everyone together. And Mr. Vanscoy and the Fleet Admiral can see that he is swaying every single one of them as they are beginning to lash out, waving their different appendages in their different ways of being incited into violence. You will see that the wrath of all the species of this council will be more than you can handle. We demand now that you surrender quietly. You will surrender not only that dreadnought out there, yourselves, but also your entire species, and you will serve under the Galactic Council as fourth-class citizens. Fourth class? Mr. Vanscoy asked. I don't think fourth class is going to... I did not ask your opinion, you overgrown oaf. You ogre that is standing here threatening us. Standing there, how do we not know that those decorations are not weapons that you have? The Fleet Admiral pointed at his ribbons. These? Yes, they are disgusting. You are simply trying to show dominance above all. And we will not be persuaded, we will not be scared, we will not be denied our right. And our right is that entire sector of yours. Your sector will be taken by everyone here. Your resources and personnel will be taken and split up amongst us all. You will face the wrath of the entire galaxy if you do not bend to us and give unwavering fealty to us now, here and now. The two humans seemed unimpressed, mostly because they towered over everyone in the chamber. The only one they even seemed to look almost eye to eye was the chairperson, as they were, or whatever they were, was elevated above all else. Only about the height of Mr. Vanscoy's chin, though. Mr. Vanscoy jumped in, saying, Before we do this, I would like to introduce you to our laws and rules of war. He hit a few buttons on his datapad, sending the message to everyone. This is the rules we go by. We recommend that you sign this. We have prematurely signed this. However, it will be dismayed and dismissed if you consider not signing it. You come here again threatening us and want us to go by your rules of war. You have no idea. Do you have any idea how much we have sacrificed to make war civilized by using our drones? This civilized warfare is beyond your possible comprehension, and you do not understand the power that this has. We will rain all sorts of fire on you, and we will destroy every single one of you and put the rest in bondage. The fleet admiral took his small data pad, put it in between his hands, and snapped it clean. This scaring the crap out of almost everyone in attendance as they saw the sheer power of who and what they were looking at. However, before he had a chance to say anything else, Mr. Vanskoy jumped in. Then what do you propose would be the outcome of this war? Full annihilation? We will simply do as I have stated before. Your men will be taken as worker slaves so that we can build our societies even better. Of course, we can all agree that it would be great to have one of these monsters raising up all of our debris, making sure that we can build our towers and our skyscrapers much larger, much bigger, and much faster. Of course, this got many of those in the council chambers who were driven by nothing but greed to cheer even louder at the idea. As for your children, they will be forced to indoctrination. If they refuse, they will be slaughtered like any other who face off against us. And as for your females, well, I'm sure we can find a use for your females. Perhaps your younger ones will be much better, as they won't be fully grown yet, and then we can... Mr. Vanskoy is actually holding his arm in front of the Fleet Admiral, as the Admiral was about to just lunge at the clunk. With that, I believe negotiations are over. It's a damn shame, isn't it? It's a damn shame. What is? It's a damn shame, it's a damn shame. It's a damn shame. They continued to say this as they walked out the door. But before leaving, the Admiral said back, "War is something we're very good at. We've been killing ourselves for several millennia. And guess what? Our wars are not so civil." This threat was met by a whole bunch of hisses and screams and curses and throwing of different items at the door as the Admiral was barely able to squeeze through the doorway and headed back towards his ship. As they did, the rest of the council began to cut off into groups and started to call forward for each of their fleets to be ready. Every single one, even their defense fleets around their homeworld, would be mobilized to take out the humans. They wanted to do this. They wanted to end this threat before it became beyond anything they could control. They realized that anyone who was friendly with the humans would be unstoppable once the humans were on the ground. As the human ship unbuckled from the station once again shifted and bounced in one direction, knocking many people off their feet. Well, people being a euphemism. And as the ship began to turn, some didn't realize what was going on. All they could hear through the comm system was a whole bunch of voices as the ship began to turn more and more in the opposite direction. It's a damn shame, isn't it? Yep, it's a damn shame. And as the calls went out for each of the fleets, suddenly fusion drives they didn't even know were actually on the ship were ignited, scorching the entire station, turning it into a molten piece of slag in a matter of a few seconds. Most of those inside didn't even have time to scream as the walls buckled. The station itself lurched to one side, shoving many off to the side so fast that they would crash into the bulkhead and be crushed under the pressure. The station itself began to list and then flip from all the pressure that was going on. The outer ring was completely scorched and melted off, venting most of the atmosphere. As those who were inside desperately tried to find some way to breathe, they were constantly being rotated and flipped and tossed around, and they would die slow as they ran out of atmosphere to breathe. The few that got to the escape pods as they were standing right next to them were the only ones who could tell the tale. The humans were coming, and they seem pissed.